Today's podcast is brought to you by Behind the Tech with Kevin Scott, a wonderful behind-the-scenes tech podcast that is on all major platforms.
How you doing?
Hey.
All right.
That's it. That's the show. That is
Good. Glad you're doing well.
Yeah,
My wife got her vaccination yesterday, by the way.
Fantastic.
Yeah, she decided to jump to the front of the line when she remembered that she had skin cancer, and that actually qualifies her to get the vaccine.
Mm-hmm. That is typically how it works.
Yep.
If I remember correctly.
And she did have. I mean, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that she faked that. That is the truth.
That's why I put on the SPF 7000 because I burn frequently.
Yeah, I told you the doctor asked me if I wore sunscreen. Yeah. Like, what? Why? She's like, you look like a tomato. Oh, right.
Yeah. So there was snow on the ground this morning here.
So we don't have snow on the ground, but we walked the dog, and something that was white flew by my face a couple of times. Not appreciating this. We have today and tomorrow are going to be really crappy, and then you can look at it's like 50s and 60s from there on. So this is the calendar is telling us it's spring, and winter is telling us we can go after ourselves. Good. It's not done yet.
Yeah, they actually put like plastic over my baby grass that I so heavily invested in. Wasn't going to do it, and then I was like, yeah, maybe I should. Kind of glad I did, because my wife
put a little educational instruction in the comments to yesterday's article, by the way, on the straw, not hay, by the way, that is put down on.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
Yeah, so I may live in the country, but I'm an idiot. So anyway.
You can be an idiot anywhere. You can be one in a box with a
do it in the city. I can do it in the country. I guess it's used to provide biological material to the grass. It breaks down, and I guess I don't know. From what I can tell, it sits there. Like I have never. Well, I mean, maybe I don't know what they do. Like I said, I never saw anyone cleaning it up, but I've often remarked on how long it sat there.
Kind of like this podcast. Yeah.
Yes.
How long
I don't know what they're doing, but there they are.
We're the hay of the podcast world.
Yes, the lawn hay of podcasts.
Microsoft did announce something that it is
straw, Brad, lawn straw,
whatever it is, lawn darts at this point. Anyways, there's plastic down, there's snow on top of it, and I'm going to probably have to keep it. I gotta uncover it and then recover it,
crack it off, and
we gotta get some airflow into there. Otherwise, okay. Anyways, vaguely things that people might find interesting. At least I really do. Backwards compatible games now available on cloud gaming. The reason why I find this so fascinating or whatever is because it's doing backwards emulation and streaming at the same time, which just sort of ups the complexity level, which means Microsoft is becoming more confident in their services that they are streaming out to your phone.
Do you think there is a licensing issue here where, in other words, this can only happen if the publisher says it's okay?
Yes, I'm almost positive that this is.
Yeah, it looks like Rare has a bunch of games on this first list, so they must have gone to them and said, yeah, what do you think? People haven't been playing Cameo that much lately.
Yeah. Because if you think about it, when they initially built these games and Microsoft gave them a licensing agreement, whatever, decades ago, the streaming was not like a thing. Like it wasn't even on the horizon when Banjo-Kazooie launched or whatever.
Just getting so let's just Perfect Dark Zero or whatever. Perfect Dark was probably an Xbox game, and Perfect Dark Zero I think was the launch title on the 360, maybe something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
So these games are 15 years old or more. At some point, Microsoft says, hey, we're doing this backward compatibility thing on the Xbox One. We're going to bring forward Xbox 360 games at first, and then eventually Xbox, original OG Xbox games. Do they go and say, hey, we'd like to put your, what do you think? And they're like, yeah, for whatever reason, they're like, yep, these games are out of date anyway. This is another way to open them up to a new audience. Great. But then they would have to go back again, right? Like, don't they have to go, okay, now we want to do streaming. I mean, I assume Microsoft has to get the okay.
I would think so. Because
I think so.
You could imagine some of these companies might be saying, hey, we're especially like in the EA world, as an example, like, hey, we're going to launch our own streaming service or something.
Or they have new versions. Like, in other words, we don't actually want people to go back and play Perfect Dark Zero. We have Perfect Dark 7 or something we're working on for next gen consoles. You could, or I'm just making this up, but
right.
You could imagine that being the response by some companies for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's cool. I think it's the logical extension of everything Microsoft's been doing since the Xbox One got off to a tough start, and
I think
it's just that the value of the whole platform.
I think the big milestone, which we all know is coming probably sooner rather than later, is when Microsoft, we'll just say Halo Infinite as an example. Halo Infinite launches on all consoles and game streaming on the same day.
Right.
That's like the next major, okay, it's Game Pass day one, it's on your console, and it's also streaming all day one.
That's a little tougher sell though for third party, right?
Sure, absolutely.
I don't. Let's pretend Call of Duty was okay with all this stuff. I mean, Call of Duty makes like $1 billion or $2 billion just launching a new game every year. So, like putting it on Xbox Game Pass would diminish those revenues. I would think. I mean, that's like the type of thing. It works. It might explain why Microsoft is doing first party games so much now, right?
Mm-hmm.
With buying studios, because they would have a tough time going to Bethesda as an independent party, for example, and saying, "Hey, the next Wolfenstein, Doom, Quake, whatever it is, Rage. How about putting it on Game Pass day one?" They would just be laughed out of the room,
Mm-hmm.
But now, by buying these companies, Microsoft will have a tremendous collection of games that will come out day and date, and that's, just sells the platform. It's good.
Yeah, for those big titles that can stand alone, it's certainly a much harder sell. But then, on the flip side, a game called Outriders is actually a third party launching on Game Pass on day one. Like I think it was last week or whatever. This week, it's launching real soon. So.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to say that wouldn't happen.
For sure.
I just look for certain types of games.
Yeah, Call of Duty would be. Yeah, that would be tough. Because
I was watching Godzilla vs. Kong last night on HBO Max.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome, and it feels like the first blockbuster movie I've seen. A year and a half or whatever or more. I mean, like maybe 2 years. So we have to go back to the previous summer. Like the stuff that was released over the past year. There's been some good movies, but not like these giant blockbuster, big movies. Like this is a big movie. And it's actually, what's that? Pacific Rim. You ever see this piece of crap movie? It's like, it's like the action scenes from a Transformer movie for 2 hours straight. You have no idea, in the dark, and you have no idea what's happening. Like it's not like that. Like it's actually like this big. It's a big movie with monsters fighting, and it's a lot of fun.
Now, did you have to pay extra for that?
No,
it was just included.
No, because they're doing those day and date things between the theater. So it was released I think in China in theaters. It made like a couple $100 million or something, and then wherever you can go in the country today to see a movie, I believe it's in the movies too. But they're doing a bunch. They're going to do the new Matrix movie this way. I don't remember all the movies anymore. I'm sorry. The Dune movies.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I now remember this. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I just last night I was like, we were kind of done with dinner early, and I was like, I'm going to watch this movie. I watched half of it, but anywho, you can sort of see the correlation or parallel there between Game Pass and like a streaming service, hosting a they call them AAA, like a blockbuster movie simultaneously. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah,
it's the dream, Brett.
Other things that are interesting are Behind the Tech with Kevin Scott. And you've likely heard that name, Kevin Scott. But if you haven't, that's okay. He is the Chief Technology Officer over at Microsoft. And he has a podcast called Behind the Tech. And you can find it on all the major platforms. But what he does is he goes behind the scenes with today's most innovative tech leaders in diverse technology. It's really a diverse technology podcast is probably the best way to describe it, with an impressive back roll of episodes. Why did I stutter over that? But anyways, this week we're talking about the Reid Hoffman episode. You will find it linked in the description of this podcast. Make sure to add Behind the Tech to your podcast feed, as there is an impressive back catalog worth checking out, unlike our podcast, which does not have an impressive back catalog. It just has more of us.
Right. There's probably a little more of substance there. Not to diminish our own contributions to the art, but
to society, and that's all. Microsoft also won a massive contract for before I even say this, I'd love to know who else was competing. We could probably spitball it, but I can't imagine the list was too long for 120,000 HoloLens units, in quote unquote HoloLens. It's HoloLens technology, but kind of built into its own form factor.
It's custom headset.
Yeah. Worth up to about $22 billion if they fully capitalize on everything. One of the more interesting things that came out of this, Paul, built in America. All of it.
Yeah. So God help us all if we're relying on this thing on the battlefield. Am I right? Hello.
Well, so here's how. When I read this, there's a project manager somewhere who's on this, and he's like, we won't have to do that. We won't have to do that. Whatever. Just put it in the proposal. Just do it. And then it lands, and he's like, we got to do what now?
Exactly. They're going to buy back their own developer versions and just retrofit them to save money because, I can't even imagine. Well, it is the U.S. military.
It's a DoD contract.
So these things could cost $100,000 a piece for all we know.
Well, I think if you do the math, that's kind of what they come out to. But obviously they baked into the cost that, hey, we're gonna have to probably spin up a factory or two or something along those lines.
Yeah, right. Guam is technically in the United States, right? Why don't we?
It's halfway between here.
What do you think?
Yeah. So that'll be, obviously it's a huge win for Microsoft. That's their second major win in recent history with the Jedi contract. So.
Yeah, and by the way, if they go the full 10 years, this will be worth more than the Jedi contract, which is kind of interesting, right? Wasn't that like 11 billion-ish?
It's like twice, obviously.
Yeah, if they go the full, I guess there's a 5-year renewal. So 5 years from now, there'll be they'll look at it again. And if they go another 5, it will come out to almost 21.88 billion, I think.
Yeah. I mean, that's a significant contract. So if that's, you got to take the good with the bad. So Microsoft's HoloLens has a future, a really long future. Cortana?
Not so much.
Not so much.
It says a lot about our little community here that of all the stuff happening in the world, that's the article that got the most comments yesterday. Mm-hmm. And, I don't know. What are you going to do? First of all, they announced this was happening last August, so it's not really that much news. In fact, the announcement from last August also contained the information about them getting rid of Cortana in the Invoke, which happened last, I guess it's April. But so they're just, coming through on what they've been planning to do all along. But the one thing I'll just say, Cortana obviously has been a huge failure. Microsoft's trying to recast it as a kind of a new thing, I guess. It's still out there. I mean, if you're on mobile, you can use Cortana to read your email in the Outlook mobile app.
Yep.
It's part of Microsoft To Do for some reason. It's on Windows 10 if you want that there. If you don't, it's a real easy right-click remove kind of deal to get rid of it.
I still think it's going away, like the branding is. Because I remember seeing some documents that referred to it as the, I think, Microsoft 365 assistant. So,
yeah, by the way, honestly, that makes tons of sense.
It really does. Cortana is whatever.
Yep.
So, anyways, it is Thursday, April 1st, the worst day of a year, excluding 2020 as a whole.
That's right. It's like the one-day version of 2020.
Yeah. So just be on the lookout for tomfoolery.
I mean, Phil, who was often the worst offender on the first, is taking it off for the second year in a row. Thank you. I always thought everything they did was terrible.
Except they built a car. I can't.
There's your April Fool's joke. You can buy a car. Sorry, when you say you mean a car, like with air quotes around it.
If you want a Fiat with Google,
those bumper car things you find at the fair. Picture that, but it has like a dome roof on it. It's just about as safe and just about as much horsepower.
Yeah, you can go buy a Google branded Fiat for
some reason.
Yeah,
it will reach the same audience that Pixel did, I'm sure.
I mean, when I saw that, I originally thought that Fiat built just like custom branded cars for their Google's European offices. Right, hey, this is what the salespeople are going to drive, and they're like, wait, I can buy this thing? It's like, what? Yeah.
I was when I first saw this design, the new Fiat 500, I was kind of excited about it. I go to Europe a lot. I've always enjoyed the different cars they have there, especially the classic Fiat 500s, like from Italian Job or whatever. I mean,
yeah.
They're fun little cars. These cars are terrible. Like my friend bought one. We have never stopped making fun of him for this. It is, I can't repeat most of the humor here, but suffice to say, a bunch of guys rattling on another guy. It's not going to be pretty. But, it's just disappointing. Like, if you think about like a car like the Volkswagen Beetle, which they don't even make anymore, but when they went and did the new Beetle again a couple of generations, like, it was a modern vehicle that was kind of respectful to the design of the original. The Fiat 500 is just a little plastic piece of crap. Like, it's just unfortunate.
I'm really surprised that we haven't seen the Beetle come back, because to me that would be like one of the first perfect electric vehicles. Like, exactly. If you want an iconic VW to say like, we're in this, like, you do the bus, which they've already shown some like teaser things off for their VW bus, and the Beetle. Like, those are like the perfect cars.
This should be a bus that has a Volkswagen bus that has like solar panels built into the roof.
Yeah, no, they kind of showed. I think they called it.
Do
like,
they?
Yeah,
okay.
It's not called the VW
like
microbus
or something.
Electric, but they've got some name for it, and it's like you look at it you're like, yeah, that's it. It looks pretty good. I don't know if it's coming to production, but
right.
Anyways,
but I agree with you 100%. And yeah, my first car was a Super Beetle, and my first new car, actually to date, my only new car, was a new Beetle. In an odd bit of symmetry, but yeah, I've always liked those cars. But Fiat, I don't know. Oh well, what are you gonna do?
Well, you can go listen to the Behind the Tech with Kevin Scott. You can find links in the description. We'll catch all of you right back here next time. It's fitting because I refer to you as the Dung Beetle.
Oh.